Greetings, all. Greetings. Welcome to week 4 of test measurement. I know that some of you had some difficulty completing assignments last week because of Blackboard issues. You do have an extension until this coming Sunday at 11:59, which will be September 13th, to complete that assignment. So complete all assignments. At this point, everyone should be pretty much in a groove, and you are, and with everything. And but you do have an extension due to the technical difficulties that we had with our network certificates and everything else with Blackboard last week. So this week we're going to move into chapter 5, which is inferential statistics. And so inferential statistics, you're going to, go through, we've talked about the scientific method. We've talked about some other, aspects of statistics. And so this week, we're going to talk a little bit more about that and talk about how the scientific method and hypothesis associated with it, how do we test those? And what are the purposes of the test, why we're testing it and the significance of it. And so this week, we're going to talk about that. It's going to be tedious. This is the meat of the course in chapter 5. So, from this week, you will know how to test hypothesis. So whether you have two independent variables or one dependent variable, you'll know what statistical analysis to use. And so SPSS or Excel can help you in this. So up to this point, we've talked about descriptive statistics and how we can use statistics to describe, a happening. And so now we want to be able to make a generalization or statement based on what's been presented from a statistical standpoint. So hypothesis testing. So in that you have the scientific method. So that requires development of a scientific hypothesis and inferential statistical test of that hypothesis versus another competing hypothesis. And so the hypothesis is the statement of presumed relationship between at least two variables in a population. So an example would be African-American males ages, 18 to 22, and physical activity. So we have 3 variables. And we aren't necessarily testing anything, but we should be able to describe physical activity in that particular group. So we got African American males, we have their age group of 18 to 22, and then we have physical activity. So the dependent variable would be the physical activity. So we could rate that physical activity by being a little bit more specific, in saying, push-ups in this particular group versus another group. So we may say push-ups in this group versus push-ups in a group, age 14 to 17, which would be, basically high school versus college. And so we could, be able to make some inferences from the statistics that we gather, the data that we gather from that. So population. So we just really described the population and parameter of that group. But population definition would be the entire group of people or observations in the question. So in the question that I gave you, well, not question, but the statement that I gave you was, African-American males ages 18 to 22 and physical activity. So we haven't developed a question yet or a hypothesis, but that's our population. And that's our measure of interest will be the physical activity in that particular group. So the sample will be a subgroup of that population. So we can divide that group into push-ups and a 1 mile run. And then use statistics, the measure of interest in that sample to come up with some data. And then from that data, by having the mean, the standard deviation, and the correlation, so having some of that, that Pearson correlation data, we can now kind of develop a question and a hypothesis. So what we believe will actually occur, the null hypothesis, pardon my dog, and then the alternative hypothesis. So the research hypothesis is what we actually believe will occur. And then the null hypothesis, the statement that would be no relation associated between the variables. And then the alternative hypothesis, a statement that there is a relationship between the variables, will be the converse of the null hypothesis. And so that's what we're going to get into this week. The quiz this week is 62 questions, so it's going to be a little bit tedious, but take your time. You have 2 attempts for the quiz, and it is open resource, so use your books, use your PowerPoints, use this discussion here to help you with the quiz. So again, if you have any questions or need any additional time, then don't hesitate, to reach out to me. But most of this information is in the textbook. It's in the PowerPoint. And then you can also see some additional instructional videos on YouTube. So to talk a little bit more, but really I want you to grasp the concepts this week of inferential statistics and how do we test based on the hypothesis and how many variables we have. All right. Have a great week.